Hey everyone, Carolina Venom here. Today I'm doing my review on the Kyocera Hydro Icon from Boost Mobile. I've had this phone for several weeks now and I have been using it quite a bit and everything, and this is actually what I have activated on my Boost account right now. So I have been using it a lot. I'm going to give you the specs of the phone, what I think about it, run some tests and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. This phone is running Android 4.3. This phone is also IP57 certified for protection against dust and water immersion for up to 30 minutes and up to 3.28 feet of water. And the Icon adds military standard 810G rated for shock and drops. So a little something extra added from the Vibe to the Icon is that it's military spec. It's got a 4.5 inch display at 540 by 960 resolution at 245 ppi. It does have scratch resistant glass. It's got an 8 megapixel camera on the rear with LED flash. It does have a number of features on the camera. It records in full 1080 HD at 30 frames per second, and it does have a 2 megapixel front facing camera. This phone is running a 1.2 gigahertz quad core Snapdragon 400 processor with 1.5 gigabytes of RAM and 8 gigs of built-in storage. And I think it's around 4 gigs, something like that, available to user. And it does support up to a 32 gigabyte micro SD card. It's got a 2000 milliamp hour battery with an estimated 14 hours of talk time and 8 days of standby time. This phone is also LTE. It's got NFC. The battery is removable. And of course, it does have the quad-core processor is nice. The 8 megapixel camera, the extra 500 megabytes of RAM really helps out a whole lot as opposed to only 1 gig. And all that stuff. Like I said, it is IP57 certified and mil-spec 810 certified as well. So really nice phone, and there is a lot to this phone. I also had the Kyocera Hydro Vibe when I was with Virgin Mobile, and for some reason this phone here just seems to be better. Not really sure why. They're both basically the same phones, but to me the Icon is just a better phone than the Vibe. For some reason, call quality is better, which I'll get into all that here in a little bit. But right now, let's go ahead and take you around the phone. On the front here, of course, you don't see your ear speaker here because it has the smart sonic receiver on it. And here is your front-facing camera. Down here is your back, home, and recents button. On the bottom is your micro USB charging port. On the side here, your volume rocker up and down. It is pretty high on the side of the phone. On top, you have your power and your 3.5 millimeter headset jack. On this side here, you lose the dedicated camera key, so that's kind of a bummer. On the back, you have your single rear speaker, your flash, your camera, and down here is where you open the back cover to reveal your battery, your micro SIM card, and your micro SD card. This phone is really nice. I do like it. I got it for a very good deal, but I got it for a pretty good deal on sale. And to be honest with you, like I said a minute ago, whenever I had the Hydro Vibe with Virgin Mobile, it had very bad call quality. I don't know what the problem was, but it just sounded bad. But when I got the Icon, started using it, the call quality was very clear, and it was really nice. And then there was also a kind of firmware or software update that I did on it, and it seemed to got even better. So really the call quality on this phone is very nice in my opinion, which I mostly use a Bluetooth, but when I don't use it, it's still very nice, and I like the way, you know, that it sounds, and everybody on the other end can hear me good as well. So anyway, that's nice. On the back, you got a really nice rubbery feel to the cover, and I love the way it feels. It's really nice and everything. So really nice looking phone. I love the way it has the accents around the phone and everything, and it has a really good expensive look to it, and you know, for a mid-range device, and so I really like it. We'll go ahead and power the phone on, and this phone, the only thing I hate about this phone right here is this unlock button here. I find myself a lot of times swiping it and it does not work right. It could be maybe the way I'm doing it or whatever. Most of the time it does work, but there is times that it is aggravating. So that's the only issue that I found so far, you know, that I don't like. That's one of the you know, minor setbacks, is sometimes I'll push it and it won't do anything, but you know, as you've seen, then it worked fine. Here is of course the screen. The screen does look very good and sharp, even though maybe the camera does not do it justice. The camera is really, the screen is very nice. This phone is smooth, even though it does have the slightest hiccup lag. And it's not bad at all, but it does have enough to where you can tell it when you are scrolling. And I do have a lot of apps on it, but a lot of my apps have been moved to the SD card, so a lot of space is still free on the phone. I have cleaned the phone out using the Clean Master down here, so I have a lot of space. But this phone is smooth. Now when you first power it on, of course it is a little laggy and takes a few minutes for it to start up good and get smoothed out. But as you see here, it is a pretty snappy phone, and there's not really much issue with lag. We'll go ahead and look here at the Antutu benchmark test, and the test I ran was 18,104, which came in at a good rating. We'll go to the details here, and as you see, CPU was good, the RAM was good, 2D graphics was good, and 3D graphics was good, and all around it got pretty good scores, you know, down the line here. Of course, it's no high-end device, but it is a good mid-range device, and 18,100 is a good score to me for this phone, and it does very well. Look at the quadrant, which I will go ahead and run this test. I am very satisfied with this phone. It does have, it is a Kyocera, and I have noticed a few glitches here and there. But it's definitely nothing that's a deal breaker. It does work very well, and like I say, I have virtually had no issues with the use of the phone. Like I say, call quality is good, battery life is pretty good as well. Reception seems to be, on par with pretty much all of the Boost mobile phones I have used. It does maintain a good 1 to 2 bars of service in my area, which is a no coverage area, but it can pick up a signal. So it's all around a good phone. So let's see what kind of test we're coming in with. Getting the focus in. This one came in at 8,237, which will go down here and look at the other specs. The CPU was 31,410, and the 2D and 3D graphics, and ended up with a total of 8,237, which is not bad. I have had higher tests, before with the quadrant, but that was before a lot of the apps was put on here. But of course it does slow it down a little bit, but hey, it's no big deal. I don't really have much else to say. I've not really done any speed tests on this phone other than being here at my house in 3G, and it does not pick up very well. But about 0.30, 0.40 megabits download is about all it gets, so it's virtually unusable. but in LTE areas I will be testing here soon on the Boost Mobile network. So of course stay tuned for that. Now as far as the camera goes, I have experienced some issue with the camera, and I'll explain here in a minute. We'll go to the settings here, and down here at the bottom you have your sync selection, your flash, white balance, your mode, which you have normal, color effect, continuous shooting, panorama, smile shutter, HDR, and your quick shot. Your color effects, you have a number of effects. You have your warm vintage, poster, pencil, miniature, sepia, cartoon, black and white, overexposure, fisheye, natural light, vivid, retro, select color, lens flare, color filter, pop art, kaleidoscope, starburst, negative film, mirror, spot focus, solarize, blur effect, and manga comet. I don't know. So quite a few features. I mean, quite a few special effects on this device. So that's pretty neat as well. When you go up here and push more, you have, of course, your camera resolution, which of course you know is 8 megapixel. You have 8 megapixel, 6 megapixel widescreen, 5 megapixel, 3.2, 2 megapixel down to 0.8, QHD at 960 by 540 and VGA. You can record in HD 1080, 720, 480 VGA, QVGA, and MMS. Now I have seen when I record in 1080 and 720 that the voices are completely not in sync with the video. Most time if somebody's talking, when they stop, eventually the voice will catch up. So I'm not sure if there's just a problem with the camcorder on my phone or what, but every video that I've took in 720 and 1080 has been out of sync. So you know, that's just the issue that I've found with the camera. You have your autofocus, which you have infinity, micro, face detection, and continuous autofocus. Your auto exposure, your brightness, your contrast, your self timer of 3, 5, and 10 seconds, your ISO up to 800, your auto review, your blink detection, your picture quality is super fine, fine, and normal, your location, wherever you take a picture at, your auxiliary line. You have your time-lapse recording as well, which is really nice. You got 1 second, 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, 2.5, 3, 5, and 10 seconds. That's really a neat feature as well. You also got your audio recording of unmute and mute. Choose between MPEG-4 and 3GPP video recording, and back to your default settings. So that's about all there is to the camera on this phone. And you know, it does have a 2 megapixel front facing camera, which does do fairly well in bright situations. It's not the greatest in low light, but you know, a lot of cameras ain't. But this one right here does need some light to be able to really take a good picture or video. But you know, all in all, this is a very good phone. I really enjoy using it. Battery life is good, call quality is good, connects to Bluetooth really well. The sonic receiver is very well, you know, on this phone. It feels very durable, and it just feels like a good phone in general. And I would definitely recommend it. The screen looks wonderful on this phone. It really does. Even though it's not an HD display, it does look very well, and it does everything well. And I've not really had any issue. The only issues, like I say, that I've really had with this phone is the camera, camcorder not being in sync with the voice. I don't really care much for the unlock screen because I have had issues with it not wanting to unlock. But most time it does work pretty well. And other than that, it's a really nice phone, and I would recommend this phone to anybody looking for a military spec phone, an IP certified phone. Just water, dust, shock resistant, and everything. Especially if you work outside in construction or extreme temperatures and stuff like that. I believe this right here would be a perfect phone for you. A really nice 4.5-inch display, and it's just a really nice phone in general and built very well. So I can say I highly recommend it. Very few cons, if any, that's really major. No major cons at all with this phone. So therefore, I highly recommend it, and I think it's a good phone. Much better than the Hydro Vibe. For some reason, not really sure why, because they're the same phone by the same company. But for some reason, this phone just seems to be better. So anyway, that's my review of the Kyocera Hydro Icon. We'll be doing some speed tests on Sprint's LTE network and uploading them as well. So stay tuned for all of that. If you got any questions or comments, please feel free to ask me. Subscribe to my channel. I sure would appreciate it. Y'all have a good one, and talk to y'all later.